Hi everybody, welcome to today's webinar hosted by Celestics and Cymulate. Thank you very much for joining us. This is an introduction to breach and attack simulation. I have everybody on mute at the moment to avoid background noises that may distract you from listening to the webinar. Throughout this presentation, someone on staff will be managing the chat functionality. You can enter your questions and comments at any time by clicking the Q&A button during the webinar. The Q&A button is at the bottom of the Ring Central meeting panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. I'd now like to introduce and hand over to Jonathan Gad, the VP of Business Development at Cymulate.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope you'll find the session interesting. We're going to talk all about breach and attack simulation. This is a relatively new space, introduced by Gartner about a year and a half ago now, but it's a field which is growing tremendously fast simply because of the very high value that it's bringing the customers that are already starting to implement the technology today. The idea is really to enable customers to get a very clear understanding of how safe they are at any point in time. One of the biggest issues that many organizations have is that they do invest heavily in IT security solutions, in cyber solutions, but at the end of the day, it's very hard to actually know how effective they are. And that's exactly where we come in, by enabling them to launch thousands of simulated cyber attacks against themselves, against their organization. They are able to validate how secure they are, how effective those solutions are all the time, literally on a daily basis, no matter what's going on in the outside world and what new attacks are coming out. This is clearly something that's very important all the time, but even more so when the new attacks are coming out, like, for example, WannaCry. I'm sure you'll remember the WannaCry attack that happened. It was very famous. It was actually on the mainstream news. And what happened then was that you had senior managers from the business side of the organization calling up the security teams, asking them if the organization is secure against WannaCry. And that's a very difficult question to answer, because obviously you have to study the attack, understand what it's all about, and then try and validate if you are safe against it. And we provide you the ability to do that very, very easily. We actually simulate these new attacks very much soon after they've come out. Within just a few hours, we provide simulated versions of those new attacks to our customers. They can then run those attacks against the organization, validate that they are safe. If they see that they're not, clearly we will then enable them to do the mitigation needed. We show them what's needed with our mitigation recommendations. They can go and sort that out and then run the assessment again and validate that they are safe. So again, really understanding whether you're safe at any time, whether your solutions are working in the best way possible, and specific to new attacks as and when they come out. Now, previously, how has this been done? Well, most organizations have been doing penetration testing on a periodic basis. Often it will be just annually. Sometimes it will be quarterly. But obviously, that's not enough. You know, the rate at which new attacks are coming out today is so fast that doing a pen test and waiting for the report to come through maybe 2 to 3 weeks later is just not good enough, because in that 2 to 3 weeks, new attacks have come out. And obviously, it's hard to know if you're covered with those new attacks. Organizations that have red teaming, the challenge is obviously making sure that the team, which is obviously very, very limited into a very limited resource, is focused on the hardest attacks to make sure that indeed the organization is safe. So again, we're enabling continuous validation of your security effectiveness, and we're enabling red teaming to literally leverage technology to do a lot of the stuff that they're doing today manually through the platform. We actually received the Gartner Cool Vendor Award recently, so we're very happy with that. Obviously very important for us. It's a very, very important recognition by Gartner that we are providing something with very high value to the market. And part of the reason they talk about us being cool is really because of what they call the ability to go proactive. In other words, if today an organization needs to be reactive or has been reactive up until now, basically that means that they've been waiting for the attack to come out, and only then do they dig down and understand how the attack got through and what the issues are. By doing that proactively, so by launching these attacks yourself, again, in a simulated way, you're able to very clearly understand where those issues are, way ahead of the hackers, way before the attacks even reached your door. So a very, very big advantage to go proactive using cyber attack simulation platform from Cymulate. So the platform itself, very briefly then, before I show it to you, it's cloud-based, so completely SaaS, and enables you to continuously verify and validate your security posture and your susceptibility. Now, we also provide you with something which is very important called the Cybersecurity Risk Score. Now, up until today, when an organization has been asked, how secure are you? It's a tough question to answer. There's no real sort of KPIs around that. And so what we've come out with is the ability to put a very tangible score to the overall security of the organization. We call it the risk score. So you can actually understand where you are today in terms of your cybersecurity, and hopefully over time show improvement. That's true across the entire organization, the entire security landscape, but also specific to attack vectors. And it's immediate. In other words, we don't have to wait for reports to be generated by a manual team of pen testers. With the Cymulate platform, you press a button, launch attacks, and you'll immediately see the results. So you're going to get an immediate understanding of where your issues are, what you need to do to basically mitigate them, and how to improve your score. And we do provide those recommendations on the mitigation as well. So the typical cycle that our customers are going through is you run a series of attacks, you understand which attacks have got through, you understand your score, you then read the recommendations regarding what to do on mitigating, you do the mitigation, run the assessment again, and you will immediately see an improvement in the cybersecurity risk score and obviously the security of the organization as well. Now, to multi-vector attack, in other words, what we provide you with is a way of literally running the full flow of an attack. If you look at the way an attack typically works, then, and I'm sure you're all familiar with this, it follows the typical attack kill chain, okay? So there'll be 3 stages: delivery, exploitation, and then post-exploitation. Delivery will typically be via email, web, or via the web application. There'll then be some social engineering to potentially get somebody to click on the link. Then the attack would need to break through the endpoint solution and then move laterally and finally steal some data with the data exfiltration. And typically in an organization, each one of these gray circles is represented by a set of defensive technologies. So for example, to protect the email, you're going to have an email gateway, perhaps a sandbox as well. For the web, you're going to have a web gateway or perhaps a next generation firewall, etc., etc. And so what we've done is we've taken the design of a typical attack and implemented our platform in a very similar way. So effectively, you're able to launch attacks across what we call different attack vectors, each one represented here as a way of launching attacks specifically to validate the effectiveness of a set of defensive technologies. So you launch attacks against the email, you're going to validate how good your email gateway, sandbox, whatever else you've got there is working. And the same is true across all the other vectors as well. Now, it's very, very easy to get going. All you really need on the inside of the organization is one target PC that represents a typical standard user. So that PC needs to be located on the inside of the organization, behind the standard security solutions that an organization would typically have. And on that single PC, all you need to do is install a very lightweight agent of ours, which basically provides us with the feedback loop. So it tells us when our attacks effectively get through or are working, and it will feed back to the platform how effective they are. So we are then able to obviously show you through the platform what's going on and what you need to do to block that. So how does it work? Basically, you set up that target PC. You then go to the platform. Let's say we're doing an email for assessment, for example. You simply type in the email address of that target PC, select the attacks you want to launch, schedule it to be right now or as often as you want, and you press launch. And at that point in time, thousands of simulated attacks will be heading towards that inbox. You'll immediately see which of those attacks are getting through. You'll see why they get through, and you'll also see what you need to do to effectively mitigate and block attacks just like that from getting through again in the future. You do the mitigation, run the same assessment again, and you will again immediately see a significant improvement in your security posture. The cybersecurity posture score would have improved, and of course the organization is much more secure. That's basically the way the platform works across the different vectors. Again, just to cover the vectors, so we're talking about email, web gateway, web application, where here we're looking at the web application firewall and how effective that is. Phishing, so here we're looking at the employees and how susceptible they are to phishing attacks. Endpoint is looking at your endpoint security solutions. Lateral movement, what we call the hopper, to see how easy it is to literally hop all the way across the network. If an attack has got in, how far across the network is it able to go? And finally, data exfiltration. How easy is it to steal sensitive data, and how could that be done? The final really important feature here that I want to mention is what's called the immediate threat feature. Okay, that's basically our ability to simulate new attacks literally within just a few hours of them being released. So what typically happens is that those new attacks come into the wild. We're connected to the national certs of various countries. So we get those attacks very, very early on. We then take them into the lab, reverse engineer them, and come out with a simulated version, as mentioned, typically within just a few hours. That's then pushed out to all of our customers through the platform and with an email. They can then run the simulated attack against their infrastructure to see how safe they are. And if they are not safe, and if the attack could potentially be damaging, they'll see the mitigation necessary. They can then go and do it as well. And one other thing just to mention, we literally announced it last week, it's actually the ability to now not only run the attacks specific to attack vectors, but we're now able to enable you to actually craft your own full APT attack. And I'll show it to you in a second in the actual demo in the platform. But effectively, what you're able to do is now also make your own attacks, okay, specific to how you're typically attacked today by the different attack groups or attack players. And that's something that's very important, because it means that you can constantly validate that you're safe against the very kind of attack that would typically be targeted at you as an organization. So again, a new feature just released, but very, very important, as it really gives you an extra layer of defense in protecting yourselves against the kind of attacks that are going to be very, very much targeted at your organization. Okay, so that's it with the slides. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to stop sharing the slides a second and actually show you the demo of the platform itself. So if you can just bear with me 1 second as I just bring up the platform. Okay, and you should all start to see the platform coming up any second now. Okay, so what we're seeing now is the full dashboard of the Cymulate breach and attack simulation platform. As you can see, right on the left-hand side in the middle here of the dashboard, you're seeing the overall posture score, cyber posture score, that's 67. And that's basically a combination of the scores of each of the different attack vectors. And as you can see, set up in a way where you're able to see the 3 stages of the attack, the pre-exploitation, going through to the exploitation, and then the post-exploitation. And each one of these attack vectors has a score. So you can see straight away from just looking at this dashboard how to prioritize your resource, which is always limited, right? So for here, for example, I'm seeing that my email gateway has quite a bad score of 91. My web gateway has a slightly better score of 63. So I know that I need to pay attention first and foremost to my email gateway, as that's a really bad score, and I need to go and sort that out. Now, let's say I want to run an attack assessment. All I need to do is go to the relevant attack vector. So for example, I'll go to my email gateway. I'll click on assessment. I can then basically select either set templates that we provide regarding the different attacks that are going to be included in this assessment. For example, best practices or typical types of attacks like ransomware or malware. Or I can create my own attack template. So if I want to call it whatever it is, test 1, and then I can actually select the types of attacks I want to include in that attack template. For example, let's say I want to do something which steals credentials. I can literally go down to a very granular level of what I want to include in that actual attack template. And then I can actually go ahead and effectively type in my target email address, the target PC's email address. I can then schedule the attack to be just a one-off or on a regular basis, daily, weekly, or whatever I fancy. And that's it. I'm ready to go. So really, really easy to get going. I then press launch. And as I do that, thousands of simulated, weaponized emails will be going towards that target PC. Clearly, we hope that a number of those will get blocked by the email security infrastructure that's in place, but some will get through. And obviously, we need to focus on the ones that get through. We can then go to the reports page, and we will immediately see all of the details about which of those attacks got through. So I can see here that my score is 91 out of 100. As I drill down into the actual report, I'm now going to see a lot more details about, first of all, top level statistics. So again, the actual number that got through, so 3,048 got through in this particular case out of 3,181, of which 496 are actually high risk. And there's additional information here that you can look at to get a better understanding again of how exposed you are to attacks like this. But if I want to see the actual attacks themselves, then I have them here set up and split per attack type. Okay, so for example, I can go into ransomware. I can see that 480 ransomware attacks managed to penetrate my email security solutions. And I now want to drill down and actually understand what actually happened. What were those attacks that got through? 480 is a very large number. So you know what, I'm going to filter based on risk, for example. So I'm going to just look at the high risk attacks that got through. And now I see all of those high risk attacks that managed to get through. And I can click on any one of those. And on the right-hand side, I'm now going to see the actual attack itself. So I've got the name of the attack at the top. Okay, that's really important because it means I can go and look for it in my SIM, in my email logs, in whatever management platform I have to see if any of the solutions actually identified this attack as suspicious or potentially dangerous. I have a description of the attack. Okay, so I can understand what it was all about, and I actually have the penetration vector. So here what I'm seeing with these little circles is I've got a piece of malware that's embedded in a CMD file type, which is embedded in a PPTX file type. Okay, now obviously that's something that most organizations would not want to allow into their organization. This is not needed for business in any way, so the mitigation here would be very straightforward. It's all about literally creating a policy on the gateway, which is basically to block file types like this very easily. Okay, so is this a CMD embedded in PPTX? Let's just block it and we're fine. And that's exactly the mitigation recommendations that are provided at the bottom. And again, each attack has its mitigation recommendations. You can then go away, do the mitigation, run the assessment again, and of course, this attack should now be blocked. When it's blocked, the organization is obviously going to be a lot more secure and the cybersecurity posture score is improved. So overall, you've done a good job of making the organization more secure and everyone is happy. Now I can actually generate reports as well regarding this. There's two types of reports that I can generate. One of them is an executive report and the other one is technical. Simply click on the button and they will show up in my downloads page here, or I can actually email them across to a list of recipients I've created earlier. And what the reports look like, basically something like this. So effectively what you're seeing here is the executive report. Okay, this is ideal for sending across to the management of the organization to give them an understanding, okay, of what's actually going on, how secure the organization is with respect to the email attack vector. And again, you get a good understanding here in terms of statistics and impact, okay, of how this email vector is doing. We also provide you with some historical information, so hopefully we'll be able to show that things are improving over time. And we provide you with benchmarking, so you can actually compare your organization to others in your vertical. The other type of report is the technical report. This is really meant for the people that are going to be doing the mitigation. And here at the top level, first of all, again, we provide you with some general statistics, But much further down, we actually provide you with all of the details of each and every attack, just like we've done in the platform. And the idea here is really to enable you to get the mitigators to do the mitigation, add whatever policy or enhanced configuration they need to make sure that these attacks will then be blocked. So you send this report across to the mitigators, they do their work, they tell you it's done. You then run the assessment again, validate that indeed the mitigation has worked, and off we go. We're hopefully going to get to our best cybersecurity posture score as quickly as you can. Now, what typically happens then is once you've got to your best score, you then set the platform to automatically run the assessment again every day. So daily assessment on each and every attack vector validates that no matter what's going on the outside of the organization with new attacks coming out, or on the inside of the organization with people changing the configurations of different security solutions, if your attack score has stayed the same, then you are basically safe and you can get on with the day's work. If for whatever reason that score has changed, that basically means that something's gone wrong. Okay, you need to drill down, understand why it's changed, and obviously do the mitigation necessary, and then run the assessment again, and hopefully your score will get back to what it should be. So that's basically the way the platform works. Let me just show you some of the other attack vectors. So on the email gateway, again, you saw how easy it was to get going. On the web gateway, very similar concept. You just simply type in the email address of that target PC that you've created on the inside of the organization. You then select the different attacks you would like to launch at the web. Now on the web gateway, what we're doing is we're both testing in both directions, up and down. So are we able to get the known bad websites like command and control centers? Are we able to download both known and unknown malware, like zero-day malware? Again, you can schedule it to do a one-off, daily, weekly, monthly, and off you go. You press launch, and the attacks will start to happen. On the web application firewall, slightly different here, as we really don't need anything on the inside. All we're doing here is really validating whether your web application firewall is protecting your web applications. And for that, all we need you to do is type in the URLs of those web applications. So you type them in here, you then select the different attacks you want to launch, and off you go again. This can be scheduled as you want. Now this time in the reports, we provide you with very, very detailed information about exactly what the payloads were that managed to get through the web application firewall. So again, the top level is going to show you overall statistics, but as we drill down, what you're going to see is again the details of the actual attack. And if we continue to drill down, you're actually going to see each and every attack, including the information about the payload. So you can see the payload here at the top. Okay, you can see the URL that we were actually targeting, that we managed to get through to, and of course, the mitigation, which in this case is really, really easy. It's just a matter of including that particular payload in the web application firewall. So very easy to mitigate. And what we've done to make this very straightforward for the mitigators is effectively we enable you to actually generate this report as a CSV. Okay, so you can generate a CSV, you can then send that across to the mitigators, then all they need to do is literally copy and paste, okay, from the CSV into the web application firewall. The next attack vector then is the phishing awareness. So here, all you really need to do is upload the email addresses of your employees, and you can put them into groups and set them up as you want. You can then create different templates of attack. We provide you with some that you can use, like this one, which is really nice. But as I say, you can actually create your own as well. We provide you with a template editor in the platform, so you can make the attack look as easy to detect or not as you want. Okay, often the customers will be using that to make a phishing attack that looks like an internal email. Also a good way of tricking employees and seeing what happens. And the same is true on the landing page. Again, we provide you with a very straightforward landing page that you can use, but often we'll find our customers creating their own landing page simply because they have corporate policy or corporate training videos that they want to include in this landing page for making sure that their employees are getting the training needed to be able to identify phishing attacks when they do come in. To launch the campaign, we provide you with a very simple wizard. You can just run the wizard and off you go. And again, very easy to understand exactly who's been clicking on those phishing emails, whether they've entered credentials, okay, whether they've clicked on the links, opened the attachments, etc., etc. The next attack vector then is the endpoint security. So here we're looking to launch many, many attacks, again, thousands of attacks at the endpoint environment to see whether you're safe or not. And again, we provide you with templates like our best practices or specific attack types, or you can create your own. Okay, you can create your own attack templates, no problem. And again, you can focus on whichever attacks are most relevant to you as an organization, or whichever ones you want to currently validate. So the MITRE attack matrix is something that's very popular today. So we provide you with the ability to actually select from that the relevant attack techniques and just include them in the templates you're creating. We have our own as well here that you can use, no problem at all. And once again, you simply select that target PC. Again, remember, just one single PC in the organization which represents a typical user. You can then schedule it and you press launch. This time in the reports, what you're going to be seeing is how many of those attacks actually managed to progress within the endpoint environment. So again, at the top level, you're going to see statistics. But if we drill down to the attack type, so let's look at ransomware, for example, we're going to see all the attacks that managed to succeed within the endpoint environment. Let's have a look at some ransomware, for example. So of course, the end stage, the last stage of the ransomware is to actually do the encryption. You see that? That's stage 6 is encryption. But obviously we want to know if anywhere along that attacks stage we've managed to detect, okay, or block the attack. And what you're going to see is at each one of these stages, okay, you're going to get all the information about whether we did manage to, or your endpoint security effectively managed to detect and block the attack. So you've got the description, you've got the mitigation, and the detection. And as you can see here on the right-hand side, we do reference back to MITRE. So you've got all the information here, and also provide you with actual real-world examples of attacks that happened using these very same techniques. So that's the endpoint security. On the lateral movement, okay, so now we're looking to see whether an attack could potentially move laterally within the organization. So again, you choose a target. Now this time you can actually choose any PC you want in your organization. So for example, a very good scenario would be to do a phishing awareness campaign, understand who's clicking the most. So let's say Jim from finance always clicks on emails that land on his inbox. You can then place the agent for the attack initiation on Jim's PC. It's completely transparent. He won't see or feel anything. And you press launch. And as you do so, what will happen is a set of attacks will initiate, and their aim will be to try and get across the network as far as possible, hopping from one PC to the next as they go. And what you're going to see in the report is literally a full diagram of your network as it's been discovered by the attack, as it's progressed. So I'll give you one example here. There's two types of diagram, by the way. This is the tree diagram. We also have a graph, but just to give you an example. So we started off the attack on PC number 732, and we've managed to hop all the way across the network. Okay, as you can see, each time I click, okay, on the relevant PC, you get the information, but effectively, we're also able to show you how we managed to hop all the way across the organization. So I just click on call to action, and what I'm seeing here is literally every hop along the way. So I'm from PC number 732. This is Jim's PC. This is where we started the attack, and we've managed to hop across to PC number 99, okay, and we did that using password spraying. Okay, and the password we stole in this case was Dudy's password, and we traversed the network using SMB as a protocol. So all the information here that enables you to understand how this attack went from one PC, 732, to PC number 99. And again, we provide you with all the information needed for the detection and for the mitigation, and of course, the examples that refer back to real attacks that use this very same attack methodology. Okay, and the same is true all the way across, right, the attack that progressed. So you have all the information there to really understand exactly how the attack progressed within the environment, within your network, and what you need to do to effectively block attacks like this from really happening on your network. Now, this is completely controllable. So the agent attack behavior is something you can actually completely control. Often we'll have customers that would want to actually define a small segment of their network to initiate the attack. So they'll start off with just a small part of the network and not the entire network. And they will see how it goes. So they can scope the range of the IP addresses you want the attack to cover, or you can exclude IP addresses. And another nice way of using the platform is to use the target option. So here, let's say all of your sensitive data is sitting on a particular server with the IP address 10.0.0.9. You could simply type in that IP address and effectively place the initiating point of the attack anywhere you want on the network and see whether from any point on the network you are able to get to that server which contains your sensitive data. So again, a very cool way of understanding how things are moving across the network. And now another thing we've done here is we've actually provided integration with the leading vulnerability scanning vendors. And the reason we've done that is to provide you with the ability to actually get a single pane of glass view of the way a hacker could potentially cross the network. So here's a very simplistic view of a very small network. We've started off on PC number 1. And of course, you can see the ability to move across the network, okay, using our attack methodologies. That's the solid line you see here. But as you can see, PC number 2 is connected by a dashed line. And the reason is because what we're saying here is, look, we didn't actually get to PC 2 using our attack methodologies, okay, but because we've done some integration with the vulnerability scanner, in this case, it's Tenable, you can see the logo here, we know that there are known vulnerabilities on PC 2. Now, a hacker could potentially use those known vulnerabilities to get onto PC2, even though we didn't do it because we didn't want to risk causing any damage. And by clicking on the vulnerabilities button here, we can actually get the full information about those known vulnerabilities that are on that PC. So again, going back to the diagram, we're able to see in one place, one pane of glass, a full understanding of how an attacker could potentially get across the network. And this, of course, is very, very important because it enables you to prioritize what to deal with first. Is it the known vulnerabilities that you're seeing here? Is it our attack methodologies? Is it a combination of the two? Of course, all of this can be done in terms of the level of priority needed to mitigate the potential attacks going forward. Okay, now the other type of graph we provide you with is basically a graph which looks something like this. So this is really for the larger networks. Effectively what you can see is things like dependencies, okay, between different PCs. You can filter here on the right on a host of different things. You can see lots of information here. And again, this is something that's typically used in the larger networks to get a very good understanding of how the lateral movement could affect a large organization and move across this network. So that's the lateral movement. The last attack vector then is the data exfiltration. Okay, so here with the data exfiltration, the first thing you need to do is type into the platform the way you represent sensitive data. So if you are or need to be PCI compliant, then you're going to have things like credit card numbers. We've already got that into the platform for you. Obviously, if you've got GDPR issues, then you need to deal with things like PII and a host of other things as well. But if you just write, for example, on your sensitive documents, the words top secret, then all you need to do is basically type that phrase into the platform. So let's just type in top secret here. And effectively what's going to happen is that the agent that you've installed on that target PC will then create a document with the words top secret in it. And it will try and exfiltrate, okay, that sensitive document that's just been created by it out of the network, out of the organization in a host of different ways. And it could be standard ways like email and web, and it could be more complicated ways like Dropbox and Slack. And this is very, very a very thorough test. As you can see, we really go into a host of efforts to really try and get the information out, including things like steganography, okay, and literally things like screenshots. So we're going to be testing things like the OCR capabilities of your DLP solutions to see if they really are blocking, okay, the attacks from getting out. So again, a very thorough way of understanding whether the DLP solutions or the DLP policy that you have installed or set up on your gateways are actually able to block the sensitive data from getting out of your network. Again, very simple to run. You simply set up the email address of that target PC, schedule it, and off you go. So lots of information there regarding the different attack vectors. Two other things just to show you then. So we mentioned the full kill chain APT feature. So this has just been released. The idea here, as I mentioned earlier, is to really enable you to craft and create your own full attacks, just like the kind of attack that you're seeing targeted at your organization. So for example, you guys are being targeted by a particular set of attackers like APT38 or the Lazarus group or whatever it might be. You can literally use one of our templates, okay, to mimic that type of attack. If you are being attacked by other types, then very simply create your own templates as you want. Again, very, very granular, okay, in terms of the ability to set up and define exactly what you need within the attack itself. I want it to be an email attachment. I want it to have this kind of extension, okay, etc., etc. So really using a whole range of different attack techniques and attacks that we provide from within the platform to create your very own full APT. And then you can literally set that to run on a daily basis. Okay, so imagine having your own fully crafted, tailor-made APT, fully simulated, of course, targeting your organization on a daily basis to validate that indeed you are as safe as is possible given the security investment in place already. And the final feature that I mentioned right at the beginning was the immediate threats feature. So this is where we show you all of those new attacks that have just come out, and you can actually validate that you're safe against them as they come. And you can see that there's a few here from today already. So I'm sure you guys are all very much aware of the Microsoft warning about the spam campaign on the using the Office exploit, or for example another one that came out today called Gold Brute Botnet. Okay, so you see you have the name at the top, you have the information about the attack itself, and of course you simply go down to the bottom, select the relevant target PC, press launch, and off you go. You validate straight away within minutes, okay, that you are safe against this new attack, no problem whatsoever. Okay, and that basically summarizes the platform. One other thing just important to show you, often we'll have customers coming to us and saying, you know what, we are a large global organization. We have offices all over the globe and we have issues of visibility. We really don't understand or see what's going on in some of our more remote offices. So what you're able to do in that scenario is simply locate multiple target PCs across those locations, and you can then schedule the platform to launch simultaneous assessments across those different target PCs across the globe, across all your different offices, to basically get a very good understanding of how those offices are doing, how the security is in those different locations across the globe. And the same is true not only of geographical locations, but also of different security environments. So for example, if you have 3 standard builds in the organization for your PCs, then you can simply create 3 target PCs, each one representing a different build. And obviously you can validate how secure each one of those are with a simple endpoint assessment all the time, again, on a daily basis. Or for example, another use case is customers, before they launch a new build of a PC, they will run an attack, okay, assessment using the platform, comparing the new build to the old build to make sure that they are indeed as safe as they were previously. That basically covers the platform. I hope you found that interesting. And I think we're happy to open up to questions. Okay, are there any questions from any of the attendees? Okay, so Natalie, handing over to you.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Thank you everybody very much for attending the webinar. We have recorded the webinar and we will be uploading it onto a private YouTube link, which we'll send to you after the event once it's all completed. In the meantime, if you have any other questions that you think of that you would like an answer on, please just send these through to marketing@celestics.com and we'll come back to you as soon as possible. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you very much for joining today.